You start out with people whose lives are really miserable, and here's the level of the sage. This is total delusion, and this is total awakening. And there seems to be this huge gap in between. And of course, until you get here, there will be a gap. When you get here, the gap disappears. Suddenly you realize it was all a construct of the mind. So you really need to kind of ratchet up a little at a time. If somebody's here, they're not going to jump to here. But if you can get them to here or to here, that's really great. If you can just get them one step further. If the person who's been kind of victimized all their lives. But what's really important here, and the thing that I really want to talk about, it doesn't really matter how many levels are here. I've had the experience of working with people who have just really been kind of steeped down here, and suddenly, like maybe about here, they have this leap. They kind of jump. Because suddenly they have the experience of the emptiness. They have an experience of that pure awareness. I am pure awareness. I am pure consciousness. And it happens very suddenly. Of course, it always does. Awakening is not the result of a process. It's not the result of anything. If it was a result of a process, it means it isn't eternal. It isn't always there. It's something that caused it, which means it is impermanent, like everything else. Awakening is not impermanent. It can't be. So therefore, it does not have a cause. You don't actually take steps to get there, right? But again, we're kind of going through this, looking at it from a point of view of the absolute and the point of view of the relative. Now, people will have this experience, but they can actually get kind of stuck here, because there is a point on this road. A very significant shift takes place. And that significant shift is when the realization happens that I am not the person. Not the person. To this point, whether this be on the trajectory of personal development and I'm just trying to make a better life, or if I'm seeking awakening, I am thinking of myself as a person seeking awakening. When awakening is the realization that that person doesn't exist. That person is completely a fabrication of the mind. It's a natural phenomena, by the way. It's not a sin, it's not a crime, it's not the great fall, it's not even a problem. It's just the nature of the nervous system itself. The whole energy that makes up a human being creates the person. It's just the way the mind works. It's abstraction, right? When I say the word body, I'm actually referring to 100 trillion cells, right? That's a lot of cells, right? And organs and functions and processes, an incredibly complex system that I sum up in a single word, body. That's an abstraction. So I can say body and we all know what we're talking about, right? And I don't have to continually refer to the all 100 trillion cells. So you know, it's a level of abstraction. Well, you put all of that together, the body, the behaviors, the experience, the friends, the family, everything, and you get another abstraction, and that abstraction is simply the thought of I. Now that thought of I is simply an abstraction, a generalization of a whole bunch of processes, way too more complex than you could possibly ever grasp. So it just gets generalized into this word I. And the moment that word I gets formed, there's this tendency we have to create an object out of it. So now this object I is a thing, not a word to represent a process, but now a thing that somehow exists independent of the process, inside the process, controlling the process. That is nothing but a thought. And it's a thought that refers to absolutely nothing. So when I say the word I, what am I referring to? Now, in the world of personal development, self-help, personal development and self-help, which is this world, that's all there is. We keep trying to find out what the I refers to, and we keep trying to improve it, right? The I, which is nothing but a story. We want a better story. We want a better dream, right? And so we want to improve that story. right? Not realizing that the I itself is the story, and there's nothing really there. There is no self. There is no I. The I is not actually a thing. It's an abstraction. It's a thought about this chaotic, complicated, enormously complex functioning that's going on that we call life. But our minds have turned it into a thing, a person. And in the process of improving, of self-improvement and moving on, there comes a point where it begins to kind of get stuck on itself. And that's where it's time to introduce the real thing, and this is now you're on the real spiritual path. I mean, even here they're trying to be one with God. The idea of it somewhere along the line, that idea appears, but they're still thinking of this I now. Now the new story is the story of enlightenment. I'm the seeker now seeking enlightenment, still not questioning the truthfulness of the fundamental premise, which is the I. When you can get them to the point where they are actually questioning that, you have now really entered the spiritual path. Because now it becomes a matter of constantly catching yourself as that habit of identifying with the I, which is now seen to be nothing but a story. You get better and better at catching it. And again, catching the story isn't awakening, right? You're simply catching the story. Awakening just happens. This becomes really a purification of the entire system, where this story really begins to dissolve.